Hello, I am Patrick Earle and welcome to my exhibition, which is called Everyday Colour. There are 68 paintings and tapestries. There's much more colour in the world than we experience, and I try and explore what our experience of that might be. The vibrancy and energy of what it means to be alive. A celebration of the joy of life in colour. A profusion of colour in history has been associated with joy, vibrancy, life and spirituality. And yet, for physical and psychological reasons, our eyes and brains do not register the full amount of colour that is here, around us all the time. Treescape is a painting that I've been working on for over 3 years. It is fully abstract. It's also influenced by the light colours and shapes that you find in wooded places. Light between trees and branches, darker places, colour contrasts. The sense of redness in and amongst the greens. The verticals of the trees and the shapes of the branches contrasted with the horizontals of the ground. The shape of forests covering mountains and the enormity combined with a sense of aliveness. I'm a colourist painter in digital, although I was originally trained as a portrait painter with oil on canvas. I work up the ideas and the detail of all my paintings in digital layers, very much as I did when painting in oils, but I primarily work using Procreate on an iPad, but also Adobe products on my Mac. Over time, I've worked on how to get the ideas and paintings in the digital world out onto canvas in as good a way as possible. As part of that process, I generally paint into the works with acrylic paint and traditional brushes as the penultimate part of creating the paintings. The Water and Stone tapestry is the largest of my tapestries. It's 5 foot square and has got close to 2 million stitches. The emphasis is to look at what colours you might see and experience in water, in its depths, and how that is different or similar to what you would see on stone walls with the reflection of light coming off from that water onto the surface of the stones. In some sense, it is a celebration of the similarity of all matter and the joy of the visual experience. The tapestries are hand-woven using a traditional Aubusson method which started in the 17th century France. I work with a specialist company to create the designs, work out exactly what colours are going where, and how to split each wool and silk piece. There are about 72,000 stitches per square foot. This self-portrait is oil on canvas and was painted a few years ago. The main idea came from a well-known self-portrait by Artemisia Gentileschi, which was painted in the 16th century and hangs in the National Gallery in London. In her self-portrait, she is captured just at the moment of looking in the mirror, whilst at the same time the brush just touches the canvas. It's a moment of discovery, a moment of sight. My self-portrait is done from a different angle. The mirror is on the floor, so I'm sitting on a bench looking down at the mirror whilst working on a canvas on an easel beside me. This is the Agony Open. It is derived from an original painting by Mantegna called The Agony in the Garden, which was painted in the 15th century. Here is a photograph of it. Many of the Renaissance paintings have a strong energy in the way that they are structured, with verticals, horizontals, diagonals and curves, and how they interrelate with each other. Usually the topic of the images are also highly emotional and spiritually intense. But the tradition was not to use colour and visual energy in a way that fitted with those stories. My paintings are trying to get a feeling for the energy that could have been in the picture, the structure of the image and how those energies work with each other. There are two versions of it, the original and the open version. This is the open version, and it works with that theme to look at the lack of solidity in imagery as well as in the real world. Slide is a painting that's based on what colours and structures one might see in a semi-barren landscape. The contrast between horizontals and verticals, the interlocking shapes from bits of stone and rock, the movement of gullies carved out by rain and water, shadow, light, and the colours that might be there that we don't really see. Many of my paintings are based on the patterns that you find in nature: foliage, water, rocks and earth. How the sun and light plays on it, how the colours shift and change. Slide is an example of this. Autumn Fire has a slightly more restricted palette than many of my paintings. It's based around harmonious colours of red and orange, plus the colour complement of green. There are several different shades of those colours, but it's essentially that simplistic palette. The main thought behind it is the movement of air and light that you find around bonfires in the autumn when leaves are burnt. Singed leaves and smoke drifting upwards in the wavy patterns made by the heat. The painting explores the movement and energy of the situation. This is one of my taste series of paintings. They're close-ups of the marks that I make, often extracted and re-examined from larger paintings. It's important to me that all of the marks in my paintings relate with each other in an organic way, work together in the small scale as well as they do in the large scale. The idea is to be able to see landscape, movement, interlocking colour at every scale in the same way. Thank you for taking a look at my work. I hope that they bring you some joy, and perhaps even open up the possibility of seeing more colour and variety in the world around us. I like looking at and thinking about the quotes from other artists and thinkers, and here's one from Paul Klee, who said, "Colour is the place where our brain and the universe meet."